well known. For some of you, if you don't know who he is, I first heard of this man back in the early 80s and had books of his and met people that knew him and that went to school under him, but, chased around different places, but never got to meet you until this year in this place. And what a blessing. So, I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say this morning.
Thank you. I know you. I've read about you. Prophet said, then those who feared the Lord spoke to one another. And the Lord heard, and the Lord listened. And so a book of remembrance was written for those who feared the Lord and meditated on his name. Malachi 3:16. You who gather and speak one to another. And God has your name written. This is true. Malachi 3:16 is about the people today who love the Lord as surely as those loved him back in those days. My daughter George, forgive me if this is self-indulgent, this doesn't happen very often. My son George is with us today. His sister, my daughter Linda, she's here, and she has 3 of her grandchildren with her. Oliver is there. There is Bailey there, and there's Davy there, and they're all solid sugar. You know what I mean, don't you? Linda and I, with George's real encouragement, we put up videos on YouTube, and she thinks if we worked at putting them up, maybe people should be told about them, and so I'm telling you about them, all right? Seems a bit self-centered, but what can I do? She ordered me. All right, and it's lovely to have them here. And it's lovely, before God I'm speaking the truth, lovely to be here with you. And I've seen a lot of faces that I've seen again and again from assemblies that I've been with, and they're all they're all great people. Lovely to see you, really. He's up among the mountains north of Nazareth, and his apostolic group is with him. This is Matthew 18. He said, who do people think I am? Who do they say I am? And they say, some think you're John the Baptist. Some think you're Jeremiah. Some think you're Elijah. And some think you're that prophet that the scriptures, Deuteronomy 18, speaks about. He says, and who do you think I am? And Peter said, you are the Messiah, the Son of God, a messianic title that to Jews. More to you and me now that we know the whole story. But the Son of God was a messianic title. And then we learn more. Peter says, "You're the Messiah, the Son of the living God." And Christ said, "You got that right. Flesh and blood didn't teach you that. You learned that from my Father." So Peter got it. He was right in what he got. And then a couple of verses later, what? Christ said, the Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of, and he's going to be killed and raised again the third day. And Peter is offended. And he said, nothing like that will happen. Messiahs don't get killed, don't you see? He said, that won't happen to you. And Jesus said, get you behind me, Satan. Others wanted to put the cross in the experience of Jesus. Peter wanted to take it out, and Christ wouldn't tolerate it. But he got something right about Christ. He just didn't get enough about Christ that was right. And then he's talking to Martha. We mentioned earlier in class that she's a bit miffed with him because she said, if you'd come when we asked you to come, my brother wouldn't have died. And Jesus said, your brother will rise again. She said, yeah, I get the doctrine. He said, I'm the doctrine, and I've dropped something, John. I'm good at this. I knew that would happen. I'm sorry. You can't trust me, John. Thank you. You put it in my pocket. Do whatever you wish, will you?
This here.
If I had his discipline, this wouldn't happen. Feel a bit sheepish about this. Thank you, John. She's a bit upset with him. She said, we sent for you, you knew, and you remember he deliberately stayed. And he was doing it for the glory of God, that they might grow in faith and come to believe in him even more. So now he's talking to her. He said, your brother will live. She said, yeah, on the resurrection day. And he says, I am the resurrection day. You believe that? And she can't get more right now, but she confesses what she knows. She said, I believe you are the Christ, the Messiah. And he said, that's true. She told all that she knew, and it was true. But there's more to tell. Everything about him is bigger than what we're able to tell. And if we speak one to another, and sing one to another, and help one another, and speak beyond the things that we characteristically say about him, the truths that we know. But if we ask him for help, he will help us. If we have people who spend time reflecting on his word, all of that kind of thing. If you share the new truth that you see with your fathers, mothers, your grandbabies, sing in their ear, tell them all about that, we'll come to know about Christ. There's always more. He's always bigger, always sweeter, stronger, braver, more just, more gentle, more forgiving. He's all of that. It's who he is, for pity's sake. He's like God. He's like God because he is God, living his life out as a human. Hosea has 7.5, the book of Hosea, 7.5 full chapters where God says to Israel, you have broken my heart. You're wicked. You went after other gods, and for 7.5 chapters he says that. And then, a third of the way down in chapter 11, he says, what am I going to do with you? Ephraim, what am I going to do with you? He said, my inside, this is all in the text, yes? He said, my inside is all churning. And then he says, I will not cast Ephraim away. I won't. I will not pour out the excess of my wrath on them, for, and here is the riveting truth about the text, I will not pour out all my wrath on them because I'm God and not a man. What man would do would be one thing. We see it all the time. We watch the news. You know what happens. You know who we are. He said, I'm not like that. I will not go back on my covenant promise, no matter how mad they've been. For I am God. And Jesus is like that. So say all the lovely things. Let's do it unashamedly and without apology. Let's do it with joy. Well, if you tell them too often that he's a forgiver, they might not. Well, we're not doing it anyway. No, tell them he's a forgiver. Tell him he is like that. Tell him it isn't hard for him to love. It's wrong for us to give the impression that God has a hard time loving sinners. It's just not true. God so loved the world. Behold, what manner of love the Father has bestowed upon us, that we should be called the people of God. And that's exactly what we are, he says. Over and over, forgiveness must be spoken. Over and over, we must embody it here in the sacrament. Here, we must be saying, he's a forgiver and he's a lover. Over and over again. But not exclusively that. He's bigger. Nothing that we can say contradicts this. It just adds to it. The 1 John text we had up on the screen there a while, we know this is the Messiah. That's truth. But then it goes on to say, the Savior of the world. He's bigger than all we're saying, lovelier than all we're saying. John's going to put a text up from the book of Genesis. She's pregnant. She thinks she's having a miscarriage. This is 25. She thinks she's having a miscarriage. God says to her, you're not having a miscarriage, dear. 2 nations are in your womb, wrestling. And the elder will serve the younger. And at the birth process, out comes Esau, and Jacob comes quickly, and it looks like he's grabbing onto his heel. Jacob is a quiet man. The word quiet's a good word, but when you contextualize it, it means more than quiet. It's shrewd, sly. You know how it worked out. He takes advantage of his brother in the first place and gets him to sell the birthright. Second time, complete fraudulent. Comes in with a hair on him and all that. You remember the story. And the father gives him the blessing. Esau comes walking in. He runs out. Esau comes in. And Esau said, he did it again. That's the second time he's done it to me. I'm going to kill him. And this is a serious hunter fella. The mother says to Jacob, run. What you've done to him is going to kill you for what she helped him to do. She said, run. He's going to kill you. So he runs to Mesopotamia, where he'll meet up with his uncle Laban, who was another shrewdy. And you remember how he cons Jacob. There's a text that says he comes to a place called Luz. He lies down to sleep. He dreams. And he dreams of a ladder from earth to heaven. The message of the ladder is, sinner or not, sinner that you are, sinner or not, the way to heaven is still open to you. Your worries go up. Your prayers go up. What you have to say goes up to me. And I will keep in contact with you. I will give you messages. I will give you assurances. All of that is going on. And in the dream, he shows him the land again, and he renews the covenant. This is all in chapter 28. Read this. It's a great story. He wakens, and he says, I didn't know God was here. Number 2, he gets the renewed covenant. And number 3, he said, Luz, that won't do. And he changes the name to Bethel, the house of God. All of that, 28. 32, he's by the river Jabbok. He's scared spitless. We're now getting in the area of his killing brother. Somebody jumps in the night on him. I'm guessing he thinks it's a hitman from Esau. He holds on to him, wrestles all night with him. And the angel finally said, let me go. Dawn is coming. He said, I won't let you go until you assure me you're not going to hurt me by telling me your name. And the angel says, you tell me your name first. And he said, my name is cheater. My name is Jacob. I'm a crook. I stole from him. He makes the confession of all of that. And the angel said, no longer, your name is Israel. The text we're now interested in is in John chapter 1, 43 to the end. His name's Nathaniel. He's under a fig tree. He's in a bad mood. He's thinking about things. He's thinking about no Messiah. The people are unfaithful. We've been unfaithful from day one. No wonder there's no Messiah. And that crook of a forefather, Jacob. Philip comes and said, we found the Messiah. There's a point to all of this, okay? I'll get to it by and by if I can never remember what the point is. He said, we found the Messiah, Jesus, comes out of Nazareth, Galilee. What? And ill-tempered at that point, Nathanael says, can any good come out of Nazareth? And Philip had the good sense to say, come and see. So they're coming. And you're supposed to imagine, get into the text and see him coming, and Jesus sort of half shouting, an Israelite in whom is no deceit. And Nathanael's response, as the text will say in John chapter 1, 43 to the end. Jesus said, an Israelite in whom is no guile, and he, Nathanael, is stunned. Why is he stunned? I mean, all he said was, look, an Israelite in whom is no guile. Why was he stunned? Because Jesus used the two big words that he'd been thinking about. Israelite, from Israel, Jacob. No guile, no deceit. Talking about the deceitful Jacob. And he said to Jesus, how'd you do that? How'd you know me? And Jesus said, when you were under the fig tree, I could read your thoughts. And his response then is, you are the Messiah, the King of Israel. Just because he used those 2 words, it got him shocked. Now he knows it wasn't just a lucky hit. Jesus really did know what he was thinking about under the fig tree. And Jesus said, you got it. Now Nathanael knows he's the Messiah. And Jesus said then, this is all in John 1:43 to 51. Read it at home. It's a great read. Jesus said to him, if you think that's marvelous, what are you going to think when you see the angels ascending and descending on the Son of Man? What are you going to think when you find out that I was the one you were thinking about? Yeah, you were thinking about Jacob, you were thinking about all of that, but it was me at the center of it all. And he said, if you think that's marvelous, what are you going to think when you get to know that I am the place, the house of God, the Bethel, where God indwells and people come to meet him? You come to meet God in me. I am the house of God. He tells that in chapter 2. John, at the end of it, they say, when he's throwing the tables over, they say, I'm nearly done. You're doing well. You're doing very well. And I'm nearly finished. God bless you. He says in John chapter 2, they said, he's thrown over the tables, they said, give us a sign for your authority to do that. He said, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I'll raise it up. And he says that to the woman in John chapter 4 in his own way. She said, you're a Jew. He said, you've got that right. And then she says, I think you're a prophet. Yeah, you've got that right. And then on and on. And then she says, yeah, but that mountain is ours, and that mountain you say is yours. He said, lady, there's a time coming. And John adds the words, and now is. He said, the time is coming when see that mountain or that mountain won't make that bit of difference. God's Spirit, he seeks those who worship him to worship him in spirit and truth. I am the house of God. And on and on and on. Texts like that are all over the place. Jesus is bigger than all that we're saying. We know this, don't you understand? I'm saying if we get it bigger, if we get it richer, if we get it finer, all we're doing here is being blessed. We're coming to know someone who has more glory, more to give, more riches, more kindness, more astuteness, more all of that. If we see more of him, if we make him the center of our speech, our songs, our classes, if we do all of that, he gets bigger. And then he says, if you think all of that is marvelous, what are you going to think when you know that God is here and you don't know it? That's what Jacob said. God was here. I didn't know it. Nathanael was looking at this young ex-carpenter fella and didn't know that God was there. Looking at him, didn't know that he was the house of God, the tabernacle of God, where we all go to meet and love with him and sing with him and make commitments to him and say, yes, I want to be this. I believe, but help my unbelief. All of us, it's what he wants us here for. It's who you are, for pity's sake. Haven't you felt badly about how far you've fallen short like the rest of us? Of course. But if I asked you to tell me, don't you love Jesus? Say you don't love him. You wouldn't dream of it. If I asked you if you're a sinner, of course you'll say yes. Sinner or not, you love him. And we'll love him more. We get to know him more. That's what happened to your family, wasn't it? How do you think you came to love that woman or that man or these children or whatever, or these parents? We come to love God the same way we come to love one another. He speaks to us. He doesn't speak audibly to me, you understand. I've not heard him, but I hear him speak. And so do you. And when we sing one to another, He's speaking to us. He's present here. The song that the one who pours the cup, it's Him, for pity's sake. When we engage in the sacrament together, He is the one who invited us here. He is the one with whom we're suppering. It's all bigger than that. We have more than a textual Jesus Christ. Everybody knows the canonical Jesus rose from the dead. What we want to know, was the historical Jesus raised from the dead? And the answer is yes. It's bigger than the biblical written Jesus, though the biblical story about Jesus is all, we need all of that. But beyond and before the story is written, He is real. And He's just as real now. And He wants in your life and mine. And He doesn't want to narrow us, doesn't want to cheapen us, doesn't want to steal, doesn't want to steal from us. Oh God, He wants us to rejoice, to be contrite with our wrongs. All right, I've done wrong, and genuinely sorry about it. But He doesn't want us to go on and on and on and on and on about it. What do you think of me, He will say. And we will say this, and He will say, got that right. I'm bigger than that. And here, you and I will keep on saying these lovely things and enjoying the lovely things we say about Him and sing about Him and pray in His name, all of that. And He'll say, that's great. Love it, He will say. But I'm bigger than that. Rejoice in me. Yeah. So now Nathaniel, though he doesn't understand all at night, the first guy to get it is Thomas. On that night, and Christ said, check me out. And Thomas finally gets it before all the rest. He said, my Lord and my God. Chapter 20, verse 28, as you know. Jesus is bigger than Nathaniel thought, bigger than you and I think. And that's no crime. It's just too big. It's just too lovely. Whatever your need is, I don't know what that is. I don't even know what my needs all are. I know some of them for sure, but He knows them, and He's made a commitment. In Philippians 1:21, I've begun a good work in you. Can you trust me? And we say, well, we can trust you. Can't trust ourselves. He said, yeah, but can you trust me? And we say, oh yeah. He said, well, I started a good work in you. I'm going to finish it. And in 1 Thessalonians 5:23 and 24, Paul, may the God of peace Himself make you perfect. All the way through, make you holy. May your whole spirit and soul and body be found without blemish in the day of our Lord. And here's the phrase in particular. Faithful is He. Well, please, listen to this. All of that, the promises and the assurance and all of that. Faithful is He who called you. And He will do it. And He will do it. If you walked in the door and got up here and He would say to you, you trust me? We'd say, oh, yes, Lord. And He would say, I'm going to finish the good work I started in you. You believe that? And we'd say, yes, Lord. I'm going to take your whole spirit and soul and body, and I'm going to work with it so that you'll be found blameless in my day of return. You believe that? And you would say, yes. He said, will you forget it? And we'll say, well, every now and again we will. But it'll come back to us. We trust you. Jesus is always bigger. And because He's always bigger, He needs to be the center. Paul says of Him, and I am just about done now. Paul said, He's the head of the church, which is His body. He's the beginning. He's the first born from the dead. Then in everything, He might have the supremacy. Paul to the Colossians in 1:18. He needs to be center. And if he needs to be center, he needs to be center behind a lectern. He needs to be center in a pulpit. He needs to be center wherever it is, in our songs, our choice of songs. He needs to be the center. If he's not the center, we're not only robbing him of glory that he doesn't brag about. He's not a swaggering Lord. Not at all. But we will be robbing him of what is due to him, but we'll be robbing ourselves, won't we? Ask for Jesus Christ. God help us to give to one another Jesus Christ. Yeah, but I'm very much a sinner. I'm afraid of speaking. No, that would be just adding sin to sin. It's all right if you're a sinner. Can I speak if I'm a sinner? Yes. Can I embody it in other ways? Can I do that? Yes. Should I not, because I'm a sinner, should I not just shut up and walk away? Heaven forbid. No. You tell the truth you know. You express the truth that you are embodying. Give it. Tell him, I didn't do very well, and he would say, yeah, but you did what you could. Jesus said, if anybody continues to look on a woman to be greedy and lust after her, he said, he's already done the wrong in his heart. But is he the kind who only credits to a sinful heart sin, or does he not credit? Does he not credit to those who would love to do better, be better, all the things better? Does he not credit that as well? Is he just one who credits sin against sinners? Or does he credit the joy and the wish and the want and the longing to be better? If I don't want to be better, I want to be better. I want to be better. And if I'm kidding myself and I don't want to be better, then I want to be better. And he said, I'll see to that. Yes. And that's who you are. And that's who he is. And you are bigger than you know. Because he is bigger than you know. I don't know what our needs are here. If there's some kind of need that warrants you coming up front, do it. If you can fix it right where you are, don't come up here. Fix it. Fix it at home. Fix it somewhere. You're better than what you are now. And you'll be better than what you are now. Because he is. And because he is, because you trust him, you know he'll keep his promises to you. Thank you, and the Lord bless you.